hello, everyone. This is Andres Pop Culture Guy. Today is the latest and finally back the Andreas Pop Culture Retrospective slash review. Of course, we're on the Halloween season, so this is my I say Halloween related content through the 24th through the 31st of October, on Halloween Day, which is awesome. As you know, I'm a big horror guy, so starting with the very first retrospective slash review on horror films, it will be Scream 3, the 2000 film, the third installment of the Scream franchise that started back in 1996. This film has its 30th anniversary, so it'll be proper to do that. Of course, Scream 3, the 2000 American slasher film directed by Wes Craven, written by not Kevin Williams, but actually Ethan Kruger, first time, I guess, writing this installment. Of course, it stars David Arquette, Neve Campbell, Courteney Cox, of course, Mary at the time with Dave Arquette, Parker Posey, Patrick Dempsey, Scott Foley, and Lance Henriksen, to name a few for the cast of this installment. Now, as everyone knows, it's a sequel to the Scream 2, 1997 film, and it's the third installment, as I say, for the Scream film series. That's a brief synopsis. The film story follows Sidney Prescott, who has gone into self-imposed isolation following the events of the previous two films, but is drawn to the Hollywood after a new Ghostface begins killing the cast of the film within a film called Stab Tree. Now, as a lot of you guys know, the Scream series has become a popular series with 6 films in total, with 7 coming up next year. You know, as a coinciding the 30th anniversary of the first film, um, with critics and audience due to the fact it's a self-aware slash film. They know the cliches of the genres, with while it's still working as a slash film, which I do agree. Now, I think it's not a big surprise here. I mean, my review is going to be the same as others, so don't be surprised about this kind of review. But the third film in the series is very weak. It's the weak link in the franchise. Definitely the low ranking of the Scream films. I mean, I did rank this low. Now, Scream 3 is not as satisfying as the original horror masterpiece that is Scream, but what can you expect from the final chapter in a slasher trilogy? I mean, the first film was a superb horror thriller, one of the best loved slasher films of the past decade, which I agree. That was a picture with some horror standards to live up to, however. Wes Craven, director of the trio, accomplished another success with the sequel of Scream, the Scream 2. Usually, this kind of movie could fade into Hollywood recycle bin by now. But Scream 3 still proceeds the chills, thrills, lots of surprises. Kind of obvious, but even though we could be receiving the same kind of story for the past 4 years, this film miraculously positively, I say it. Well, the film is marginally passable. I would have to say it's not the worst slasher film. I mean, there's way worse slasher films, but this film is marginally passable. Although the most flawed film of its series, I agree. But I will give this like a recommendation for you guys to see. But it's not a substantial in quality. So let's get into this real quickly. Now, once again, the key to success in Screen Tree is the scary sequence. There are good ones here. I think that the build-up, momentum, the stunts work well. Um, Usually where the slasher kills his victims is well done. What makes these scenes so effective is how we know that the characters are three-dimensional. They are put up a firm fight for their lives, unlike the victims in most slasher films you watch. However, the plot seems to evolve around the murders instead of the murderers branching out from the story. That's a big issue. Scream, or Stamp 3, the film within the film, seems to be a central presence to connect the film's somewhat desperate through line. Craven's direction this time around is solid still, for the most part, but the big criticism I have of some of these sequences following the Ghostface attacks, it just looks like there was just more than one killer. This film, out of the bunch, is the only film where we only have the one killer. It's not two, as a lot of you guys know about this franchise, or three recently with the Scream 6. But the conclusion shows there was only one killer for this film, and it's kind of weird. It does lead into a lot of plot holes for this kind of killing spree. But we'll get into that, or not really, baby. But again, the Scream series always have been a self-aware meta element to it, but with Scream 3, it really takes the satire to a new level here. It's taking a bit step too far as it takes the jabs against Hollywood. Again, I don't have a problem with this, but it's kind of weird now. We're not focused on stabbing on the horror genre, but now Hollywood. Very interesting, especially who's involved with these films. I mean, the Weinstein brothers are producers of this, and it's funny how they're exposing the crimes of the producer having these parties and have assault some of the actresses in the story, which became true because of the crimes that the Weinstein has done, as being exposed in 2017, the Me Too movement. But the big jokes are about the productions, including the constant rewrites to the film, which was an inside joke because some of the screen films did have like constant rewrites because of the ending or some leaks happened during it. To the film suffers, the actress saying that she's playing the character that is 14 years younger than her through a music video director forced to make Stanley as his directorial debut before he can make a film he wants, or actors having to sleep with people to get roles, and producers debating on the violence in films, influencing real life violence. All that is true in Hollywood, and cannot believe they addressed some of these. The film just got too meta as a person and a fan here. That they're talking about the rules of a trilogy, but the fact is this film is way much for like way more focused on being a satire on Hollywood as a whole than a spoof of the horror genre. That's a big letdown for this film. Tonally, Screentree is lighter than the previous films. As everyone knows, the high school Columbia massacre happened in 1999. Fortunately, some of the productions of films that were coming out after that incident had to be a little more conservative and a little lighter with the violence. And unfortunately, Screen Tree was caught into that. And unfortunately, there's always a committed undercurrent to the series, but it has become more pronounced in this installment, with the character interactions and the deaths themselves were less gruesome and more over the top, particularly with the house getting blown up, which was done in a unrealistic way, which is crazy. And there is a sequence when Ghostface throws a knife at Dewey's head, and is like literally a cartoon scene, which that shocked me. And there's even like occasional comedic musical elements of the score, even invert cameos from character actors like Jay and Silent Bob, or the late great Cute Fisher's cameo here as the one that got passed for the Princess Leia role, which was funny. By the way, I like that cameo. Um, but uh, what are the best parts about this film? I think I find the best bits in Screen Shape was the more serious stuff. When we see Cindy living in an isolated life in the countryside with tons of security and works as a women's crisis counselor, I think that's a really good character build up and a good like a good continuation to her story throughout the series. I really like that. But it does not blend well with the more comedic tone, unfortunately. And the film as a whole was struggling to justify her premise, her presence in the film. Unfortunately, this is the least screen time that Cindy Prescott has in this series. Unfortunately, a lot of the actors' schedules were busy with other projects or television work, like Courteney Cox and Neve Campbell. Unfortunately, Neve Campbell was finishing up the Party Five season six finale season during this time, and Courteney Cox had the Friends going on, but this the Party Five schedule with Neve Campbell really affected her time in this film, and unfortunately, she has less time in this film than some of her parts in the Scream franchise in general. Now, there are a lot of people where she's not involved in the film, but she is not involved at all in the first act, which is crazy, and forces a reason to be in the film. So, that again. But much of these problems I had to bring up is laying the feet of the new writer. So I brought it before briefly that Kevin Williams didn't write this film. Unfortunately, it's a new writer called Ehren Kruger who had replaced him for this film. Unfortunately, Kevin was busy with a lot of projects, and I think he did do his directorial debut teaching Mrs. Ripley during this year, last year, the 1999 film. But again, I think it's kind of obvious. I think this new writer was trying to copy Williams' style, and directed by Wes Craven, wanted to remake a new Nightmare. The characters do feel a little compared to the previous films, and then the science/self-aware elements of the film was not as sharp as the first two films, unfortunately. The acting was also weak too, despite Parker Posey. I think the highlight for me, Parker Posey is the best new addition to the cast. I think her part was really well done. I never had a problem with her when I saw this film, but some of the cast members I feel like were very weak, and just didn't live up. Fortunately, I just feel like many of the actors were either fully in their performance or shouting or screaming, including a scene where the staff actors end up acting as a cliche horror victims slash targets. And at the time, um, this screen tree was originally meant to be the conclusion of the series. I mean, this was the last installment. It was a disappointment. It's not bad, but it's not a good film due to the poor script and overall comedic tone. It's not the worst film, but it's not even the bad by horror standards. There are good moments, but it's disloyal to certain aspects from the previous films. As I brought before, it's more satire than a spoof to the horror genre, including some of the character revisions, which you could have thought that Craven could have noticed, but didn't, unfortunately. Some of the plot points are fun and revealing. See a videotape of the past character describing the possibility of the movie's final outcome. Interesting, but this event programs are, I say, imagines to the suspect that unexpected. The plot does desperately intend to fill in missing pieces of the previous screens. However, showing some of the signs of the contrived foreshadowing is still there. Each scene moves like story forward and through representing the plot with freshness and ability around every abrupt corner. Just wrapping up my Scream 3. Scream 3 is a close call. I mean, it's giving someone a mixed reviews from critics and everyone who has seen this film, but I'm still going to give the movie a martial recommendation, I have to say. Happy 30th anniversary, Scream 3. I mean, it does contains more darlets, more surprises, more effective scare material than most slasher movies of today or back then, although I believe it's a wise move to make this film the final sum of the series, but unfortunately, it wasn't. I think, thank goodness, because I think the next couple Scream installments were much better than this film. So at least we get that. So thank you everyone for joining me on this spectacular Scream 3 30th anniversary retrospective slash review. I'll be back for more Halloween related retrospective reviews. Next one will be actually first I'm probably gonna announce my next one. It's gonna be Casper, the 1995 classic film for its 30th anniversary. Oh, by the way, let me correct this. Scream Trees is 25th anniversary this year. Let me make that clear because I'm making a mistake here as usual. Sorry guys, bit busy, but the 2000 it's 25th anniversary. My bad. Where Casper is the 30th anniversary because I yeah make make that correct. But yes, so right now, next movie is Casper, the 1985 classic film for its 30th anniversary. So that's going to be the next retrospective slash review. So thank you everyone for joining me for the Screen Tree 25th anniversary review, and I'll see you again next time. Ciao, bye.